I lose sight of that,
Yeah.
because when I voted for that 6 years ago, that was my biggest fear, is that $640,000 savings every year was just going to dissipate and disappear. And I think it's really important every year to make sure we commemorate and memorialize the fact that we invested $10 million, $11 million in the pension so that we would have that ongoing stream of money that we don't owe towards pensions. So thank you for having that in there.
And just to complete that thought, it's $0.015 on the tax rate equivalent that is going to fund the George Mason High School. I mean, when it's pay for, and so the tax rate would be higher by $0.015 if it weren't for that action.
Right, and it took me about 2 years to understand that, so I want to make sure that everyone else does as well. And then my other question is from Mr. Anderson, or maybe Dr. Noonan, just about the student, per student cost. And that is a fixed moment in time where we look at the pupil count as of September 30th. And can you talk a little bit about how the pupil count changes and how it has even changed in the last month or so with the addition of new students? So it's a fraction, but the denominator changes depending upon how many students we have in the school division.
That's right, and for the purposes of making that chart, it is a snapshot in time, September 30th enrollment, as you said, but that was in order to be able to have a baseline that carried through. Throughout the year, we get on a monthly basis updates as enrollment is going and where students are coming into the system from, and that sort of thing is a level of detail that I would have to point to Dr. Noonan for. But in the last month, we have had a somewhat of an influx. So, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yep, thanks for the question. One of the things that I have tried to brief the council and our board on is that I think to world events than any other, certainly in the Northern Virginia region. And as a consequence of that, because of some changes in placements of diplomats and State Department families and some evacuees, we have actually gained an enrollment in the last month and a half or so by about 34 students. And we anticipate we're going to see some more students coming in too as some of the other areas begin to close off and more families come home. So that is something that we don't anticipate or we don't know is going to happen, but we do try to plan for, which is sort of back to Mr. Anderson's point earlier about why do we have contingency reserve just in case things like that do happen. So we expect that we are going to see some more students, but we welcome them and are really glad that they're with us.
Thank you.
Okay, just before we keep going, I just want to remind everyone we have technically not started the business on the agenda yet, and we do have a closed session tonight. So with that, Mr. Lichtenhouse.
Thanks. To my city questions, why do we get a break for the East Falls Church and West Falls Church closings in terms of our prorated contribution to Metro?
No.
I didn't think so. Just where those hawk signals are going. We have 4 hawk signals going in the city. I'd just be curious to know where those are. I think one's up on Haycock. Are we doing one on near Oak and Broad as well?
Oak and Broad,
Barry?
Fairfax and Broad, Barry and Broad, and then through a different grant, there's actually one around mid-block, around where Mad Fox used to be.
Okay. On the technology front, the regional investment in the cybersecurity.
Yes.
Who does that include? What jurisdictions that would be involved?
We're still working through the details of it, but it would be our adjacent smaller jurisdictions.
Okay. I had a conversation with Libby Garvey after a COG meeting. We were talking about cybersecurity as well as COVID-19, and she had recommended getting together with our immediate neighbors, Arlington and Alexandria, to talk about some regional cooperation. So I would just put that on your radar. She was very open. It was actually her idea. So I think that could be useful. And then does that investment, is that just for the 1 year? Or is this an investment we're going to make year after year?
It's envisioned as an ongoing
Okay.
expense.
Okay. And then I would like to have a conversation at some point about the impact of the potential increase in stormwater fees, not just to the residents, but the businesses as well, because it can be pretty significant for the buildings, which then gets passed on to the local businesses, and so it can be a pretty big number. got some experience dealing with that in Maryland, and I'd just like to chat with you guys about mitigating some of that risk there.
right.
So, thanks.
All right, so given the hour, I'm going to keep my comments brief. I think it's a great start on both sides, school side, city side. We're doing lots of good things in this budget, so many things that we've been talking about over the years, and I think it's representative of the community's values and priorities. And so I think it's an excellent start. I've got some questions. I'm going to have some questions and some comments, but I think for tonight, I'm just going to leave it at that. And thank you all for coming out, and let the public once again know that this is the start of a process. And we've got a lot more to go, a lot more opportunities for comments. But we appreciate everyone coming out this evening. Look forward to working with you all.